You are listening to Ask the Answers podcast. Join me, Adele as I uncover the knowledge, inspiration, and empowerment the psychic world has to offer. Let's begin. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ask the Answers podcast with myself, Adele being your host. And we're welcoming another one of our psychics that works on the phone lines. This time we have the lovely Valory joining us. Hello, Valory.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's so lovely to be here.
Oh, and it's lovely to have you on board. Valory, I can sense or hear a slight accent. Whereabouts in the world are you?
I'm in the US. I'm on the West Coast.
Oh, fantastic. Is that where you were brought up? Is that where you've always lived?
No. I've lived all over this country and in several others. So I enjoy, do I enjoy traveling? I think I do enjoy traveling.
Yeah, you're well-traveled.
I had lots of motivation to travel, right?
Oh, lovely. Well, we'll be finding out all about that as we go along on today's show. So, just starting from the beginning, I guess, Valory, how you started getting into the psychic world. When did it all start for you?
Boy, I just believe I was born into it. I don't know that there was a moment that it started for me. I was raised by my grandmother as well as my mother, and they both did lots of things in sort of the psychic realm. And so I was just trained that as a child. So as long as I can remember, my great-great-grandmother traveled all across this country, healing people, in the 1800s. So,
oh, wow.
Been a thing forever.
It's been like second nature. And what was it like for you growing up in that sort of, the thing that people maybe don't always openly talk about, but maybe it was happening more in your household that, your mum and your grandma was picking up psychic experiences?
There was still a big don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. So there was not a lot of active talk about it, but a lot of modeling of it, which I suppose is unusual. And then my mother taught classes on things like dream interpretation and on other kinds of sort of psychic development, although it was only sort of always under the radar. You know what I mean? We don't want to flag ourselves too much. We've been run out of enough places.
So could your mum and your grandma sense that you had the psychic ability?
I'm sure that they did, yes.
So how did it move forward for you? Who encouraged you, or was it something that you just started to self-teach yourself and go into it more?
Honestly, so when I was very young, I would have a lot of dreams where people would come and teach me in my dreams, and that was a very big thing, particularly around self-responsibility and compassion. Every night in my dreams, I would have a set of different parents who I thought of as my real parents who would teach me all about compassion in this world and about caring for self and others. And I think that really helped with my psychic development. But I also, as a child, also in my dreams, I would have dead people approach me and ask me to take them to the land of dead. And the first time it happened, I was like, I don't know how to do that. And it was a man, and he's like, I think that you do. And he's like, why don't you check your pocket for keys? And so I checked my pocket for keys, and suddenly this car appeared. And so I drove him to dead. And so I was doing these things sort of.
What does that mean, driving them to dead? What does that mean?
So it's psychopomp activity. Essentially, people can get stuck. So when someone passes, if they're not aware of it, or if for some reason they have strife about moving on, they can get stuck here. And so I would help them to cross.
Right.
Which I didn't understand at the time, but I just would drive them to dead in my dreams instead. Wow. And so then, but I never told anyone. So many, many things happened the whole time I was growing up, like story after story. And then I went, after my son was born, I went to a shaman, and I asked for a soul retrieval. I said, I don't know what it is. I only know that I need one. I heard that you do this. Don't know what it is. Need one. And he brought me in, and he did the soul retrieval. And at the end of the soul retrieval, he said, you've been a shamanic practitioner. You've been doing this. without a teacher, and that is going to get you in terrible trouble. You need to have a teacher now. And then he told me a dozen things I had done in my life that I had never told anyone.
Mm.
And so then I started studying. So I've studied with a couple indigenous healers as well.
Wow. So is healing your speciality? Is that what's at the forefront, would you say?
I would say what's at the forefront for me is one's personal work. Really, how does one do the best job in their own life for themselves?
Mhm.
Um, so I'm going to say particularly as women, but in no way limited to women. There's a way that we are often dampened and told who to be, and that's gender free. So culture tells us who we should be,
Mhm.
and how do we live into a safe space in that culture while simultaneously really embracing who we are and taking advantage of the amazing, precious gift of a life. So I
Yeah.
really work with people with transformation and direction and self-care, self-responsibility, really what is best for each of us, what is best for the person I'm speaking to, as
Yeah.
opposed to what will look best or what will impress others. Really, how do we become whole? So it's a
Mm.
kind of healing, but a healing from the inside.
Yeah.
So on the line particularly, I don't do any healing work. We don't do healing work on the line. However, I do help people in sort of embracing their own ability to move forward themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And especially in today's world, I mean, people are more accepted for who they want to be. But again, there are still, some challenges that people do face, whether it's to do with the line of work and they can't be themselves, or the people they surround themselves with, maybe they can't be themselves. And it must be very difficult for people that are still battling or fighting those challenges without not being able to express how they really feel.
Right. Absolutely. It is so hard to be human.
Mm.
So I deal with that a lot. It's also amazing and glorious and thrilling. Like we have such a large gamut compared to so many life forms, right?
Yeah.
We really have the possibility for both great ecstasy and great despair. And how do we pick a path that will be rewarding for us, that will allow us to do what our soul came here to do, while simultaneously enjoying the journey,
Mm. I know
right?
when I've spoken to lots of psychics in the past, they've often said that a lot of trauma and life lessons have got them where they are today. That sometimes, or a majority of the time, a lot of the psychics have had a troubled upbringing, or they've had to deal with, lots of different situations that have come into their life. Do you think, that's always the case, or do you think that you can have a very nice upbringing and that you've, had everything going your way quite nicely, but you're still able to go into yourself to discover yourself and find out more about the psychic world?
I do think that you can do it without all the trauma. So I do think there is something to the trauma. I think that when our needs are not being met in this physical reality, we're more motivated to find other ways to meet our needs and other ways to connect. And I think it's as easy as that motivation.
Hmm.
That said, I also think that there is something that is born into us, which in no way do I mean that to be better or worse.
Hmm.
I think that people are glorious, like such miracles. Life is such a miracle, and people are such miracles, and we all have different gifts born into us.
Hmm.
But I think genetically, I do think there's a little bit in there that has to do with our degree of sensitivity, which is like all other things, both good and bad,
Yeah.
right? It's challenging to be sensitive, and there are gifts in it. It's challenging to be mathematical, and there are gifts in it. So just like any other trait, I think that there is a little bit of sort of inherent quality.
Hmm.
Um, and again, by no means do I mean that that makes someone better or worse. I don't.
Mm.
And that said, I think that we can all develop a greater sensitivity simply by being attentive to it, like
Hmm.
like all gifts, like
Yeah.
all gifts and qualities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Being able to tap in and go within yourself, might sometimes be easier when you are looking for answers and questioning life and questioning your decision. But again, that isn't something, like you said, you can't learn and find a different way, and, finding those retreats, or, learning from other people around you.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a lot of development, a lot of ways we can develop. And I think if anyone who chooses to develop can develop, Right. That's an amazing gift
And
of
do you
being
do
here.
teaching yourself? Do you do psychic development at all, or do you just do your own work and that's it?
I largely do my own work at this point.
Hmm.
I teach some things, but I don't teach psychic development.
Uh-huh.
And the reason I don't is because it's so entwined with trauma in my background and in so many backgrounds, and I am unwilling to traumatize anyone. I would like everyone to have a beautiful, glorious, pleasant journey. So, I don't know what will traumatize a person. So
Yeah.
I will support a person in doing their own healing and in looking at the things that they need to look at, but I'm not going to subject them to the kinds of trauma that actually immediately help develop. I'll
Mm-hmm.
give them the resources and the paths to help them develop themselves, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to do anything that is sort of being the one who is disciplining or whatever in
Yeah.
order to train. I'm not my bag.
Over over the years, have you seen your own psychic ability change in any way, or is it quite consistent in the way that you work?
Boy, it has changed. So I was born doing things. So I was born and things were modeled in my home that then I took on. And so I did my own work and from a very, very young age, as we've discussed. And then as I was trained, I put down the things that were inherent to me so that I could really study the traditions that I was studying. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was very important to study just a single tradition. And people can go back and forth on this. Like some people feel some ways, some others. But for me, I really wanted to know that tradition. So I would put everything else down and study that tradition for a
Mm-hmm.
decade or whatever until I felt comfortable in it. And if I wanted to go on, I'd put that down too and study another tradition, but only that tradition so that I could really understand sort of the cultural context, the emotional context, the way that it changes my inner relationship to my outer world was important to me. So I studied them sort of consecutively. But then at the end, then when I stopped studying under a particular mentor, so I still, of course, am in the world and am doing my best at all times to be teachable. Sometimes I suck, but
Yeah.
generally, generally I try hard to do well, to be teachable, to learn from my mistakes.
Yeah.
But I find myself really going back to what I did when I was a child again,
Mm-hmm.
because that's just what is inherent to me.
Yeah.
So now I have many, many, many tools in my tool belt, which I really appreciate, and I get them out when they are the best tool for the job, and I still inherently function the same way that I did as a child. But
Yeah.
so grateful for all the training, particularly the training around integrity and the training around shadow work or looking at myself and being able to move myself forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important. And that's something I'm happy to do because that's about talking. That's
Yeah.
about
No.
talking. How can I help you? It's not about an imposition, but rather about an offering. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to offer all that I can when we're online and doing things,
Yeah.
but I will not be doing anything where I'm coercing or in an over,
Yeah.
just an offering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's like in life, isn't it? I mean, it's so lovely to add more strings to your bow, but you often go back to what you know or what works better for you or what gives you that, stronger outcome. And that could be in any profession. And I know even in my own career, there's been many times that I thought, oh, I've tried and learned to do that and try something different because who knows where it may lead to, meeting new people or, experiencing new things and, developing yourself as a person in different ways. But, you often do have that go-to of, the things that that work. So why change things that work so well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Right, absolutely. There's just something about we are who we are.
Mm. Yeah.
Right. Right. So that's a fascinating thing to me, actually. The ways that we learn and develop and form our own identity. There is a way in which we are born the person we are. We have a birthright, and that whether that be the context that we were born in or the gifts we were born with or our physical qualities, and those all have impacts in the world that really can't be denied. But simultaneously, we also have these amazing spirits spirits that can really learn and grow and develop and become more, become other, become what it is that our soul is sort of aiming for. And it feels to me like it's always this perfect, well-timed dance between the two. How
Mm,
do we care for ourselves? How do we grow more? How do we sort of find the comfort, and how do we push the edge? Like
mm.
it's always a back and forth, the breathing, the in and out of I will learn and develop, then I will grow out into the world. It's
If that,
fascinating.
absolutely. And if someone's listening to the podcast today and maybe they feel a little bit lost in life, maybe they don't feel they have a purpose, is that something yourself and psychics can look at on the phone lines where, well, this would be a great purpose for you. This is going to make you feel fulfilled, alive. It's going to give you that drive. It's going to make you want to get up in the morning, because often people do suddenly, I don't know, when the children have flown the nest and they're not a parent anymore, or if somebody
Right.
retires and they haven't got that job that they went to every day. If somebody has lost that purpose and they're struggling with that, is that something you can look at?
Oh, absolutely. Right. Looking into someone's heart and helping with, what will bring fulfillment, what will bring joy, what will bring love, what will reignite the spark of life. Absolutely something that
Mm.
we can look at. Yes.
And that's what's amazing, isn't it, about having a psychic reading, that when sometimes you don't know where you're going or feeling lost, or you can't see things from a different perspective, to have that on the phone lines, and that's sort of almost like a wake up call and go, oh no, I haven't tried that, or oh yes, I do feel a little bit like that, a bit of a reflection or a bit of a soundboard for somebody on the phones without any judgment.
Absolutely. I think that's a very important thing with psychic lines. Yes, absolutely. There's someone there who can help you remember that there's light in your world, or point out where the direction it's coming from, which may not be apparent. We get so focused as human beings moving through the world. This is what we think we want, what we think we need, what we think we're doing, who we think we are. And then we might find that actually, if we just turn our head a little bit, there's
Yeah.
an amazing pathway opening up that is so much more who we really are than
Mm.
what we're hearing we should be or have come to believe we must be.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
also hard to get motivated, and sometimes people say, oh, it's easy to just get up and do it, or go and, get that job, or, go in that direction. But it does take a lot sometimes, that self-discipline, that motivation to get up and to make that extra effort. And again, if you have that support network behind you, that's lovely, if you're accountable. But if somebody hasn't got that, again, it's another way that people can get that inspiration, that motivation, and someone to say, yeah, go on, go for it, you're going to do great, and this is around the corner for you, and it's not going to be a waste of time. Or if it is, there's still going to be lessons there to learn that's going to be good for you.
Absolutely. Life is completely a team sport.
Mm.
We tend to forget that as well, but really we are all here together. We are an interdependent species. Like when we work together, when we get the support, when we get the insight, we really have better lives. It's
Yeah.
very important to be able to make that contact.
Well,
And yeah, it can be absolutely reinvigorating.
so
Yeah.
is this what you've always done? Is this your main job, or have you had other jobs along the way, or is this a part-time job for you?
I do have other jobs, so mostly I work in art and creativity. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is that more drawing? Is that making?
I mostly write. So I have worked in visual art. I've worked in visual art. I've done lots of computer art. So I used to be a graphic designer.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, yeah, I do a lot of art. I also teach spirituality. So, but I
Ah,
don't teach, but not within the context of training a person.
yeah.
Like there are many mentors out there who will train one. I am not a mentor who will train one. I am a teacher who will support one in learning to train oneself.
Yeah.
Right.
And have you always been interested in art? Is that something, again, from childhood into your adult life that you've been involved with?
That's another family thing. Pretty
Yeah.
much everyone in my family has some kind of art. Yes.
So you're quite a quirky family, creative and quirky.
Absolutely, yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah.
Has there been any highlights along the way with some of the creative sides that you've done?
Well, I'm hopefully finishing a book soon, so that would be huge. I
Yeah.
have won awards for graphic arts in the past. When I was
Amazing.
young, I won some graphic arts awards. So
Oh,
yeah,
brilliant.
I'm 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 okay. I'm okay at it in terms of commercial
Oh.
viability. Yeah.
And you mentioned there earlier on about traveling. Again, was that traveling through, interest in discovering new places, or was that, through challenges that made you move, or other sort of factors that came into it?
Honestly, I really feel like it was about finding parts of my soul.
Hmm.
So it's very interesting to me. So I am really genetically mixed. So I look very, white person. I look very white European, but I'm extraordinarily mixed. And so I really felt oddly like when I would go to places, I would reawaken a part of an ancestral soul. And I'm not really clear what that's about, but that was a very big thing for me. And yeah, I have looked into my DNA and I really am tremendously mixed. And so there was just, it felt compelling to go places and to see the different ways that human beings act. So
Mm.
there's also something to me that is really fascinating about culture. I love culture. I love reading about culture. I love studying culture. I love seeing examples of culture. And I'm really fascinated by how much of our behavior is cultural versus how much of our behavior is human versus how much of our behavior is individual. I
Hmm.
find that really fascinating. And for me, one of the best ways to learn that was to travel and to really see how people behave in different contexts and different cultures with different gifts. I think it's just miraculous. I'm fascinated by
What's been
it.
your favourite place or the most fascinating place that you've been to, and why?
Oh, yeah, I know. I can't do that. I don't know.
Too
They're
many.
all beautiful and
Oh.
fascinating in their own way. So here we have we have amazing nature here, and we have a culture that is very compassionate and very caring in this particular tiny section of the world that I'm in.
Mhm.
Not trying to say it's the whole country right now, but that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But I've been to the UK and I loved the UK for a totally different reason. So I was in York for a while and I loved York because there was a feeling of safety and sort of a stability that comes, I think, from being there for a long time. I
Hmm.
think it may be that simple, like the way that everything was stated and had been tested. I'll say it that way. There was less of a feeling of testing edges and
Hmm.
pushing boundaries, and more of a feeling of comfort and stability and rooting. And I recognized, that with those two places, like together, they're perfect for me. I'm like, I can both root and grow in that
Yeah.
environment with the two of them. While either one of them, I'm not able to be as fully me as I would like to be.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's a little fascinating. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I'm sure again, people listening can probably relate to, what you're saying. There are so many people that sometimes just don't feel like that place is home, and they've got itchy feet, and want to travel or explore, or feel that yeah, this is not their forever home. There's something quite not right, and sometimes you don't know what it is. And you said going to different places and finding that soul purpose or soul journey, or that just a connection with a place and thinking this feels like home. I feel I can be myself. I feel grounded. I feel content. And it might be whether or not you move from a city to the country, or country to the beach, or whatever it might be. There might be some
Right.
people again that haven't found that yet. They're still searching and thinking I'm not settled yet, and I don't know why.
Hmm. Absolutely. So I find that I really like edge places too, marginal places, which I think is probably true of many psychics. So traditionally, that's been a thing. The people who do this kind of work live on the margins because that's where there is excitement and growth, and which is so vital to refreshing people, to rejuvenating people.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of always want to be by the sea. Like that's very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And there are different things for different people. I also loved Berlin. In Berlin, I felt this sense of just agedness, like this sense of going back through time or being connected through time in a way that have not felt anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Really fascinating. Yeah.
And also being in places at different times of your lives, because I was very much a city girl all the way up until my 30s, and then since then I love and I've embraced the country life. It feels amazing for me now, bringing my children up in the country. My son's playing, going fishing, and we've got a little Shetland pony that goes around with a cart like the old fashioned days, and we absolutely love it. And it's so nice from going from the city to the country, but feeling very much complete. I feel very much complete and content in my life at the moment where we are. But that again, that might change, you know, over the years. Suddenly we might think, oh, actually, this is not right for us now at this moment in time in our lives. Things change over time.
Absolutely. Sorry to interrupt. But yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad you have that. That is fantastic. I love that you have that. That's beautiful. Yes, I also feel like I'm very city. There's part of me that is really urban and that feels very excited and connected and just happy, just electrified and alive in the city. And there is part of me that would just like to lay on the earth for about a week and just sort of be part of the world and feel the trees growing. That's also amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So for you, I mean, how would you describe yourself as a reader? If somebody said, you know, what makes you different from anybody else that's on the phone lines?
I would say just attentive. So I don't talk to a lot of people on the phone lines. I call the phone lines occasionally, but nowhere near as often as I am reading on the phone lines. So I don't know that I have the best way to judge them. I do set up what I think of as a sacred space in the morning before I get on the line, and then I invite people into that space. I think that I have particularly clear boundaries. I think that I will not tell people what they want to hear if I don't think it to be true. So often people really want to hear a thing, and my training, I have an integrity in my training that will not allow me to let people, to let me infer something that is not true or that I do not feel to be true. So particularly honest. I do my best, of course, to be kind with that and to help look at the light. So that idea of we get on, our focal things on, forgot the word, we get on our blinders, we forget where the light is in our world. Like, I think that I am very good at helping people find the light again. So if somebody is really focused on something that might look very dark or painful or unhappy for them, either because it's not a thing that's really lined up to be moving into the manifest world at this time, or because it's something that might harm them, I think I'm very good at helping them open up to a little bit of a bigger view so that they can see that light-filled path that may be calling them. So helping people see a bigger picture in which there are more options that's healthier for them or more compassionate for them. It's funny, when I say healthier for them, I feel a little yuck. Like it's not that I know what's healthy for you and you don't. Not that.
You're giving yourself a yick.
It's not that. It's just that it's that I'm able to see essentially a little bit of unfolding.
Yeah.
So a little bit of how things are going to work. And if people are very attached to a particular thing, no matter what that thing is, even if that thing's going to happen, that sense of attachment of really wanting that one thing or being too specific about exactly what it will be like can be harmful.
Yeah.
And so opening it up a little so that you can see the bigger picture and the more holistic way forward and the way to a true sense of peace and harmony with oneself and the world. I think that that's really what I do best.
Yeah, and you can't fault that. I think anyone would want that honesty, and it's sometimes really hard to take that honesty when you so really desperately want something to happen, or you want to be with that certain person, and if if it comes back through that maybe that's not the right thing for you. Obviously, further down the line, you'll look back and go, "Oh, I'm so glad I didn't, go with that person, or I didn't take that job offer." And that's like it was right. But at the time, I was like, "No, I want that job. I want that man."
Right.
You can't see the wood from the trees, and that's where you have to be patient. Even if they don't accept it at that time, just be open to what that psychic has said, because no doubt you'll probably come back in a few weeks or a month's time and go, "I didn't want to hear it then. I thought, no, this can't be possible, but now I see why."
Absolutely. I've been there, done that. I've totally hung on to things I shouldn't have hung on to, only to have them bite.
Yeah.
So I wish for everyone their fullest development in the most pleasant, joyful way possible.
Yeah, and it's really hard because you don't want to hurt people's feelings, do you? But you also don't want to lead them up the garden path. It's like, and it's so easy for our friends and family to give us that support and go, "Oh, you'll be all right." But yeah, it is nice when someone can say, "Well, actually, you need to know this."
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So what does your you mentioned you had a son. What does your son think about you being a psychic? Is he open to it? Is he spiritual
Oh no,
himself?
no, he hates it. No,
Brilliant.
he loved it when he was a child, but
Yeah.
from teenage, no. Yeah.
Isn't it funny how they change? My son said something yesterday. I had when during lockdown, I had another account. It was called Embarrassing Mums. It was just, a bit of tongue-in-cheek videos of just being embarrassing, basically. And at the time, I remember he loved doing the videos with me. And then literally yesterday, he went, "Mum, can you take that account down? It's really embarrassing. All my school friends are seeing it. You loved doing those videos with me at the time. Yep, but can you take them down now?" I was like, "Okay."
Right. That was the
Oh dear.
point. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah,
So
that
I
sounds
mean,
fun.
yeah, no, they are. They're great, aren't they? But again, they're on their own journey as well. The children, aren't they? Sometimes they're all for it, and
Absolutely.
sometimes, yeah, they just, his little personality is changing now, going into sort of the teenage years, and it's like, oh, that rejection. Sometimes it's like, oh, he doesn't want to come out with me today. He wants to go out with his friends, but
Right.
yeah, that's life.
Yeah. Yep. And they come back.
Yeah, but not to tidy their rooms.
Right, exactly.
So moving
Yeah.
forward for you, I mean, is there things that you want to still do, or do you think you're quite happy where you're at now with all your psychic work and where your life is?
Well, I'd like to expand my psychic work, honestly, and I am working on a book. So I'm working on my creative life. And what I really wish to do is sort of give back to the world, really. It, so, I want to say, like, I want to give back my wisdom. I don't know if I have any wisdom. Maybe I don't have wisdom. What I would like to do is provide an example.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's a poor example. One can determine for oneself. I would like to offer up what it is that I have learned in case it helps anyone else. And I offer everybody to pick and choose. Please take what helps you. Don't take what
Yeah.
doesn't help you, right? The world has lots of options. Pick
Yeah.
the ones that really call to your soul.
That's why I
Mhm.
think it's so great to have all these experiences, because the more experience you have, the more you can share and relate to people, and how you
Right.
did it, or how not to do it, or what you've experienced, and just having conversations with people, isn't it? Knowledge is power. So the more you know about things, or
Mhm.
what other people have been through, and know that maybe you're not alone, or maybe you might be a little bit alone with this thing that other people haven't gone through. But yeah, I think just talking is the main thing to help anyone.
Absolutely. And we so often feel alone, even when we're not.
Mm.
So, how do we make those deeper connections so that we don't feel so alone in the moments when in a physical world we might be? So I
Yeah.
think that's another thing that I think am particularly good at is helping people find their own spirituality, their own connection to the mystery, so that they can feel sustained and rejuvenated as they move through challenging times.
Yeah. Really nice.
Yeah.
And today's world is so busy. If people are working and they've got family and children, you also often put your own needs to one side, and at some point it might build up, and you come to a point where it's like, oh gosh, got all this going on, but I still don't feel I should be where I should be at the minute, or again, feeling a little bit lost, or feeling you don't have even a chance to breathe. It's like, oh God, how can I even think straight when I've got so much craziness going on in my life? And just finding that space just to be alone with your thoughts or with a psychic is, again, something really beneficial.
Absolutely. I think you're right. I think that's a beautiful power of psychics in general as well as nature. Like
Mm,
places to go where you can really be yourself, where
yeah,
you can really breathe, where you can take a moment and really make it, I want to say all about you, but it's not all about you as a human. It's all about you as a human and your connection to your greater context,
yeah,
where
getting in.
you can really understand yourself. Mhm.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we had this thing at work not so long ago. I think it was like for mental health week or awareness or something like that. And half the people, probably never even spoken to a psychic in my workplace, or there might have been some people that might be a little bit interested in it. But they brought somebody in to do a sound bar for us, and whether you're spiritual or into the psychic awareness or anything like that, everyone loved it. Everyone got involved. Everyone felt really in tune by it and really sort of in sync. So it doesn't have to be deep psychic, things that you talk about with a psychic. It can be very practical things that aren't too scary for people, or aren't too a bit out there for some people that maybe haven't experienced the psychic world. There are so many lovely, whether it's yoga, Pilates, sound baths, all these lovely little things that can really make you feel, in tune and sync without it being too much.
Absolutely, absolutely. Every culture will have many, many options, and so yeah, really honoring. So, in particularly multiculturally, honoring is a huge part. But honoring and then receiving the grace and the gifts of that practice is
Nice.
phenomenal, and so many practices. So that's exactly the kind of class I teach. Like
Yeah.
different ways that we can do that. What are the different options for getting restoration and healing and supporting oneself?
Gosh, there's so much out there, so many things to experience. I'm getting itchy feet now just talking to you. It's just like, you get so wrapped up in your everyday life, but there's so many different, like I said, traditions and experiences that you can all have, which when you don't have responsibilities, obviously it's a lot easier to do. But
Right.
yeah, even just being able to speak to somebody about what they've experienced, you can get a sense of it.
Right. And the options are endless. And so sound baths are fantastic, particularly with healing. Like I remember going to a sound bath, not feeling particularly well, and leaving feeling fantastic. Like it was just a miracle healing for me to just lay there and listen to beautiful sounds for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So,
Yeah.
on the phone lines, when people do come through and speak to you, have you been noticing anything recently? Because I know there was a Mercury retrograde. I don't know if you're into the astrology side when it comes to psychic work, but I know people have been saying there's been a little bit of reflection, things maybe not moving forward as much recently, just while people have been going within themselves. Almost like that springtime, isn't it? You plant the seeds, you water it, you wait for it to grow, and then we spring forward. Have you been experiencing that a little bit on the phone lines?
Yes, there is a little bit of that. So I have to say first, I'm extraordinarily comfortable in Mercury retrograde. It's almost like in my chart. If you look at my astrological chart, it looks a little like Mercury retrograde.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there's a there's something about, to me, that's not a problematic energy. Many people experience it as problematic
Yeah.
because it's frustration and I want to push through.
Yeah.
But to me, that's about, it's a time of reflection. Like,
Yeah.
how do we look at what's going on? How do we reevaluate how we want to show up in the world? And then how do
Yes.
we properly communicate that? That idea of 2 steps forward and 1 step back, like we so often think of that as frustration, but in many ways, it's about perfect direction. Like we take 1 step and we go, that's a good way. We take a second step and we're like, oh, not quite. Back
Yeah.
up one.
Double
Okay,
check
which
yourself.
direction it is now? Right. It's
Yeah.
it's sort of it's a healthier way of moving. It's not
Yeah.
just frustration.
Yeah.
Although it can be that too. Yeah.
So, I mean, what sort of year are we heading into, would you say? Is there, a certain energy out there at the moment that is around people, or can you not maybe nail it down to a sort of one thing? Is it quite a few elements that go on?
We have a lot of change happening right now, just a lot of change. So I would say that the most important thing right now is finding one's own centered, one's own values, one's own groundedness. How do we stay clear and rejuvenated and learn how to embrace that change, how to move with it? So I recently, through a series of things that would go on really long if I told you about them, started thinking of it as, when we have this thing in mind that we want to do, I want to do this one thing and it's going to look this one way. It's like I'm riding my bike like right into a brick wall if the world isn't ready for that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's something about, how do I stop focusing on the direction and the end point, if there is one, because really things never end. There's not an end. So
Yeah.
so that whole idea of we're gonna be happy in the end, yeah, no.
Yeah.
So 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 how do I stop focusing on this end, and how do I figure out how to sort of ride my bike in the right way? How do I
Mhm.
concentrate on the way I move forward rather than the destination I'm actually wanting to end up at?
Yeah.
Because if I'm moving forward in a way that is graceful, that is fluid, that is sustaining, then I can change my direction at any time, and
Yeah.
then I will get to my destination, as opposed to if I keep just plowing myself into brick walls.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I totally get that. It sort of reminds me a little bit of, I teach fitness classes, and
Oh, nice.
I was saying something to we do like a children's class about how often children will go full steam ahead. They've got to be the fastest. They've got to be the quickest. And we were just trying to explain to them, yes, it's great that you've got that motivation and you want to be quick off the mark and you want to be fast, but then you're going to blow out. You need that active recovery. You need that control your breathing, get your heart rate to come down. The rate of recovery, is measured by how quickly your heart rate comes down and how fit you are. It's not about going full steam ahead and blowing out. It's about that control. And similar to obviously riding that bike, it's not about sprinting into that wall as fast as you can, but having the tools and the ways of doing things and getting the whole package basically, so you're better at what you're doing and achieving.
Yes, I think that's brilliant. So thank you for doing that. That's a great thing to offer the world, especially children, right?
Keeps me fit as well.
Yeah.
Lovely. Well, Valory, how often are you on the phone lines for?
I've been on a lot recently. So these days I'm on for many hours a day. So I take one day a week where I'm not on the lines. I take one day a week where I don't do anything, honestly, because that's my time of reflection to make sure that I am actually doing my own work.
Yeah.
Because it would be really easy for me to just not do my own stuff and concentrate on other people, because that's way more pleasant. But so
preparation
for one day
is the
I'm
key.
not on. Exactly. But most days I'm on for anywhere from 3 to 12 hours. So I'm really been on a lot recently. And it's usually in the UK in the evenings. So I'm there afternoon, evenings, most every day, and through the night. So I'm there in the middle of the night. If you want somebody at 2 a.m.,
you'll be there. So your PIN number is 700622.
Yes, it is.
Amazing. Lovely. Valory, any last words that you'd like to say to any listeners before you go today?
Oh, just keep doing what you're doing. I hope that you find your perfect world, your perfect grace, and that you move forward in joy and peace, accomplishing what your soul needs to do in this world. And thank you so very much for having me. Thanks for this time. I've appreciated it.
It's been so lovely, Valory. Thank you so much indeed. Good luck with your book and good luck with all your work moving forward.
Thank you.
Lovely. Take care, Valory.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Answers podcast. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and save to your library. Remember, there are 100 psychic readers available on our website for readings 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To triple your credits on your first purchase, visit asktheanswer.com and click on the new customer offer banner.